Hey, we're almost to the Northern Air Temple. This is where they had the championships for Sky Bison Polo.
The history of the Northern Air Temple. The Northern Air Temple was one of the 4 original temples that belonged to the Air Nomads. Located in the mountains along the northern coast of the Earth Kingdom continent, this temple was one of the 2 temples that exclusively housed male airbenders, the other one being the Southern Air Temple. Its original population, however, was wiped out at the beginning of the 100-Year War during the Air Nomad Genocide. The temple was later inhabited by a group of Earth Kingdom refugees led by the Mechanist, who settled there after their own village was destroyed by a flood. The Northern Air Temple was the site where many important technological advancements in the world took place. The temple was later restored to its former glory by Avatar Aang and the Air Acolytes after the 100-Year War, and after airbending resurfaced in non-bending citizens following the harmonic convergence in 171 AG, it became the training grounds for those new at the art. However, when the Red Lotus arrived, the building was eventually destroyed by Ghazan, who used his lava bending to destroy the temple's foundations, which eventually led to the building's collapse. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the history of the Northern Air Temple. Before we begin, we publish new content every week, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Northern Air Temple was built thousands of years before the 100-Year War by Air Nomad monks, who used the structure mainly as a training ground for young airbenders. The temple was noted for its design, which harmoniously integrated its natural surroundings into the structure. The large hallways would harness the wind and allow air to flow naturally through the building. The temple was the residence of a legendary guru and poet, Lahima, around 3829 BG, during which time it is believed he discovered the secret to weightlessness and lived the last 40 years of his life untethered to the ground. After the extermination of the original population, the temple complex was rediscovered by a group of refugees led by the Machinist around 89 AG, after which it was extensively modified from its original state to accommodate the lifestyle of the new residents. As the Machinist added new inventions, the temple underwent many technological upgrades, which often required the destruction or expansion of many original structures. While searching for signs of the Avatar, the Fire Nation eventually discovered the temple's established refugee population and threatened to destroy their new home. However, the Machinist was able to make a deal with the military, in which he would design weapons for the Fire Lord in exchange for letting his people live in peace. The Machinist used the airbender staffs he found within to make his own gliders and give his paraplegic son Tio a new life in the air. During the years the refugees lived in the temple, some were eventually seen gliding around it by other Earth Kingdom villagers, who came to call them airwalkers. Hopeful to see other survivors of the Air Nomad Genocide, Aang, Katara, and Sokka traveled to the Northern Air Temple, where they discovered that the airwalkers were just the gliding refugees. They met up with Tio, who proudly showed them around the temple and its many innovations. Sokka was immediately enthralled by the changes. Aang, however, was angered and saddened by them, as they had destroyed part of his people's history. He saw them as a violation of the temple's original sanctity. In an attempt to cheer Aang up, Tio took him and Katara to the inner sanctuary of the temple, convinced that since it could only be opened by airbending, it was still untouched by the technology. Aang eventually agreed to open the sanctuary. However, inside they found a storage room for Fire Nation weapons instead of ancient Air Nomad relics. The Machinist explained that the Fire Nation had found the Northern Air Temple about a year after the Earth Kingdom refugees made it their home, and that the Fire Nation had threatened to destroy everything by burning the temple to the ground. In an attempt to save the settlement, the Machinist had offered his services. The Fire Nation had been extorting him to manufacture weapons for them ever since, under the threat of an attack if he did not comply. After Aang forcefully expelled War Minister Qin, the representative of the Fire Nation, thereby terminating the partnership between the Machinist and the Fire Nation, the latter gave action to the threat and launched an attack against the temple. Although they initially managed to hold the Fire Nation's forces at bay with their control over the sky, the defenders were no match for the Fire Nation's Tundra tanks. In a last attempt to repel the advancing army, Sokka and the Machinist, piloting the first-made hot air balloon, threw their fuel source overboard to ignite the natural gas pocket held in a cave beneath the temple. Their venture succeeded as the explosion blew up part of the mountain, destroying the only path to the temple and forcing the Fire Nation to retreat, thereby protecting it from future attacks. The temple remained unscathed by Fire Nation attack and the subsequent explosion. The Machinists continued to produce inventions at the temple. However, this time they would be used to help defeat the Fire Nation during their invasion. Sometime after the 100-Year War, Avatar Aang spearheaded the restoration of the air temples with the help of the Air Acolytes. To restore the portions of the Northern Air Temple that were destroyed during War Minister Qin's attack, they called in the help of earthbenders, and the holes created by the explosions were filled in with new buildings. The acolytes later came to inhabit the temple, while the refugees that had previously lived there moved elsewhere and the technological advances they had installed in the temple were removed. After the events of harmonic convergence in 171 AG and the return of airbending, Tenzin brought many of the newly discovered airbenders found throughout the Earth Kingdom to the Northern Air Temple so that they could be trained to master their new abilities and help restore the Air Nation. The area, however, had also attracted the attention of poachers looking to capture the endangered flying wild bison around the temple in order to supply the Earth Queen and her royal court's desire for exotic meat. They would come into conflict with Tenzin and his airbender trainees before being subdued and imprisoned in the cages in which they had kept the captured bison. The temple came under attack and sustained some damage when the Red Lotus arrived in order to round up all the people staying there to use as leverage to get to the Avatar. Due to police relentless combustion-bending bombardments, many temple pathways sported holes in the stones, while Gazan's lava bending had liquefied part of the inner courtyard and Ming-Hua's water bending destroyed some of the stone Air Nomad statues. Mako, Bolin, and Asami later arrived at the temple to free the captured airbenders, while Korra turned herself in to the Red Lotus. It was a trap, however, and Gazan created a pool of lava, preventing them from escaping, while flooding the temple in the process. Following Tenzin's guidance, Bolin broke through a wall, allowing Team Avatar to escape via the basement tunnels of the temple. After they fled the temple on Kai's bison, the building collapsed as its foundations had been destroyed by the lava. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.